Hello and welcome to this incredible episode we have for you today with Menashe Friedman. Menashe Friedman has been in the sales industry for quite a while. He has a nice resume from behind, and it's amazing. He's going to be sharing with us so many different things that we're going to be learning specifically about sales, but even within sales, the lead generation aspect to it, because growing up and getting into entrepreneurship and trying to figure out business and whatnot, everybody talks about sales, but you can't make a sale if you can't get on the phone with somebody. And today we're going to be picking Menashe's brain just a little bit to help us get on the call, get those people in order to be able to speak to. So Menashe, thank you so much for coming here today.
It's my honor and pleasure. Thank you actually for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor. I've followed you, believe it or not. I actually just looked at my email to see the first time I actually communicated with you or touched base with you via email. It was in 2022.
There we go. Look at that.
So we've been connected for a while.
There we go. I guess it seems like the lead generation has been working on my end. So we'll see if I'm doing a good job or not. So I guess my first question to you is, what is lead generation? For those people who hear the word, they don't necessarily know, what does it actually mean to somebody who's in sales and an expert at it?
As you so eloquently put it at the beginning, just before, you can have the greatest product in the world. You can have the greatest service in the world. You can have the greatest whatever it is. And I could go through and give you all of my sort of examples. I'm known for giving sort of visualizations of it, but we'll skip that for now. But if you don't have who to sell it to, you're not going to sell it. I don't care how great it is. So lead generation is generating leads to follow up with, generating people who might want your service, might need your product, might use it, or something else, have some sort of value to what you're trying to accomplish. And lead generation is, how do we generate a list? We talk about pipelines and sales funnels, and we'll get into that in a minute if you want. I do think that people have that whole thing very mixed up and sort of convoluted, but how to always have a steady stream of people you're talking to, you're reaching out to, that are people who might want or could use what you have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. So so what would be the difference between that and, let's say, like just marketing, normal marketing? I'm sure they're hand in hand, but where does it differentiate between doing the marketing aspect and then switching over to the leads aspect?
I once saw a beautiful breakdown of what things are, and they said, putting your billboard out there so everybody sees your name, your thing like that. That's not marketing. That's advertising.
Okay.
Creating a movement of people who want your stuff. That's networking, or word of mouth. The whole thing together is marketing. Marketing is putting your stuff out there so people know about you, hear about you, and it comes in many different forms. But that's what marketing is sort of creating, sort of having your color logos, your things like that become familiar. That's brand awareness. They're all part of marketing. That's I would say your outreach. Lead generation is a little bit different. It's much more specific. I could put my stuff out there. Everybody can know who I am, but who do I actually reach out to? Who do I actually talk to? Lead generation is what I'd like to call actionable information of people you need to engage regarding your product or service.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that marketing and advertising, or everything, I guess, that falls under the marketing aspect, is there to get people to even just raise their hand, and once they raise their hand, then we start this lead generation process of let's try to nurture them in a way to see if I can actually help support them?
Correct. The way I would like to say, a lot of things that I break down with a lot of people is there's contacts and then there are leads. They're not the same thing. Contacts is a name, a company, or somebody, just a name. A lead is when you actually reach out to them or know something about them and say, this is something that they might be interested. So I'll give you an example, something I tell people all the time. Let's say, I'll give you an example, just life insurance, right? So you can have a lot of contacts that you want to speak to them, let them know what you do, be involved, show them you're a person in your industry or mortgages or any industry you're in. But those are not leads. Lead is This is somebody who might actually want my product. This is somebody I want to follow up with. I also differentiate between a lead and a prospect. Between a lead, a prospect, and a suspect, we can like really get into it. But there's suspect, there's prospect. So I would say, let's say there's a contact, which will lead to a suspect. I suspect they might want something, which will lead to either a lead or a lead, and then leads to a prospect. We sort of mix all these words together in a big, call it a goulash or a cholent or whatever you want to call it, but they're all very, very different. So lead is actually something that, I'm trying to, the best way to describe it is, let's say the wrong thing. We have a horse or a dog on a leash, and you can lead them somewhere. So to break it, just to take a half a step back, which we really didn't get into, but you have somebody in your pipeline that you can lead them into your funnel. At that point, they're a lead, meaning when you're leading them into your thing. That's why I also differentiate between pipelines and funnels.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Okay, but there's so much to jump into here. So even though most people talk about leads, there's like different levels, it seems, of leads that I guess people use on a generic level, where a lead doesn't necessarily mean there's somebody who is going to necessarily buy tomorrow. It could be somebody like a prospect or a suspect, like you said, or even just a contact. So it just for somebody who I guess is not as delved into the sales aspect as much as you are, it's interesting that there are those differentiations where I think if once you break it down, you realize, oh, that person, he's like so close to buying, and that person, like, they just signed up for my email list, and maybe like it's a step, but like there's so much further along the process. So I guess it's interesting to know, and I guess even to differentiate between who is what and who is very possible, going to be able to buy. So getting back to, I guess, the beginning of it, like, I guess prior to this, you said there's a difference between a pipeline and a funnel, right? So,
Absolutely.
So let's jump into that, because I think funnels are a big deal that a lot of people talk about, and I think people use pipeline, and they use it also when it comes to funnels. So what's the difference, I guess, according to this, the master Menashe, like what's the difference between funnels and pipelines?
I won't say master Menashe, but what I do, I'm talking like third party. I guess some therapists will have a field day with that, or psychiatrists, this guy's nuts. But no, one of the things that I do, or I have done over the years, is I challenge a lot of the conventional wisdom, the way, sort of, we know it, we teach it, et cetera, break it down and say, what's really going on? And very often I find that either what we've been taught or what used to be has either changed, evolved into a new way, or we're not breaking it down enough to understand it. So as you know, I'm sure many people use pipeline and funnel, my sales funnel and my sales pipeline, interchangeably. Yep. The way I like to describe it is your pipeline feeds your funnel. So think about it. Let's say if you were to turn on the tap and pour water into a funnel. So the funnel is the water that's going in. You can put it into this pot. You can put it into this pot. You decide where you want to put it. The pipeline is the pipe that brings the water to it. So, for example, contacts could be the beginning of your pipeline. And there's enough contacts in there. But then as you go through them, you decide who goes into your funnel and who doesn't. The easiest way to describe it or to differentiate it is your sales pipeline is your process from when you either get a name or find a name until you bring them into something that you're working on. Your sales funnel is your client's journey from when they hear about you until they either become your customer, become your client, or not. So the pipeline is your process. The sales funnel is their process, their journey. Mm-hmm. Pipeline is your journey, their journey. The difference is both cases, you have 100% control of it. You control their journey through your funnel. You control their journey through your pipeline. So this is within your control, but there are different stages of the game. Mm-hmm. So a contact could be the beginning of your pipeline, but they're not in your sales funnel. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll dig into it if you want. I mean, we can go on. And
no, this is amazing stuff. Okay, great. So I think that makes sense. So now I guess the big question, what everybody is having, is like, then how do I get people into my pipeline? Right? Because like we said earlier, when I first started learning about sales, I started learning about the technique and what to say and what not to say and how to formulate the sales calls and all that. And then I learned it, and I was so proud and excited about it. And then I was like, wait, There's just one issue. I have nobody to practice on and nobody to like even speak to. So I guess when it comes to this aspect of this concept, I don't even know. I don't even know if I want to call it lead generation anymore, because there's so many different ways we can go.
No, it is absolutely 100% lead generation. And I actually just reached out because I wanted to pull out something. I once did a class on this. It was beautiful. I wish I could show it.
You could show.
Maybe not. I'll put it aside. But anyway, to say it the best way, everybody always wants more leads or lead generation. It is probably the number one problem that salespeople face everywhere. I've faced it. We've all faced it. I've been in so many different aspects of sales in so many different industries. And even when I was already sales manager, sales director, I would take my own territories and work them so it was based on real. The number one thing is lead generation. How do we generate leads? And like you say, most of the sales training, do this, do that, carry the ball, give them a choice, blah, 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 close on the first call, all these things. And nobody really focuses, but how do we fill a pipeline? So everybody needs more leads, always. The funny thing is, though, if you talk to salespeople, usually one-on-one, they very often don't admit that they don't know how to get leads. Say, I want more leads. Oh, do you know how to get them? Yeah, I know how to get them. Okay, so why don't you go and get them? Or they won't say, hey, listen, I don't know how to get leads. And while much has changed in sales, I know we spoke about it a little bit, how things have evolved over the years and things are really different. One of the things hasn't changed is how to get leads. And it's very simple. Starts with you need people. How do you get people? If I were to task you and say, hey, we need 500 people to fill an auditorium. How are you going to get 500 people to fill an auditorium? You're going to go out there, you're going to find, hey, you want to come to the concert, free tickets or whatever. I don't want to talk free. We won't talk about discounts and things like that. I'm not going to get there. But it's really about using your network, tapping into your network, and every person in your network has their own network that you are not privy to. Using your network to tap into their network. And, when they say it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. How many people can I get? Contact information. And I always say, just the name is great, but get some basic contact information. Put them into your pipeline. Okay. Now we can get into how to really be much more specific about it. But at the end of the day, a lead is a lead. A lead is somebody who might be interested, somebody I want to have a conversation with. The only way you're going to find it is by expanding your circles. Networking events, big time business events. Everywhere you go, there are people. I call it, you ever heard the thing, checkbook prospecting?
No.
Or checkbook lead generation? It starts with, and I don't want to get to the whole know, like, and trust and my version of it, but it starts with people knowing you and knowing what you do. So a thing called checkbook prospecting, the people that you write checks to, you go to your grocery store, you go to your supermarket, you go to your doctor, you go to whatever, your car mechanic. Do they know what you do? Let them know what you do. Do they know you? They know you. They know what you do. People have to start knowing what you do. Once you have that, then you can have a conversation. Do you know who else I should be speaking to? Anybody you ever think might be interested in having a conversation? Do you know anybody that I really should reach out to? And you can start building your information that way. But it really comes to people knowing what you do and being out there. You have to be out there. We get a lot of questions, but I'm an introvert, and we can get into that if you want a little bit later. But it really is about putting out there, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's, I'm not very good at the Instagram. My kids will probably laugh when they say, because I used to tell them, oh, what's this Insta chat thing? He's so old, right? But it's really being out there, being a presence, being active, and letting people know what you do and how you do it. That's where it starts. Once you have that, then you can have conversations with people. Once you have conversations with people, that's where lead generation comes in. But if you're going to sit around waiting for it to come to you, good luck. Doesn't work. One of the things I always say is, if you think you're going to build your business without outreach, you're making a mistake. If you think you're only going to build your business through outreach, you're also making a mistake. It's like we were talking about marketing before. All these things are tools pulled out at the right time, used in the right way, will get what you need. So If you need to generate leads, you need to start with people, talking to people, meeting people, letting them know what you do. Follow that with having conversations with people, have more conversations with people, and that's where your leads will come from.
Yeah, I think that's really spot on. I personally, that was my experience when I first started getting into coaching. I was like, I'm a phenomenal coach already because like because I'm officially a coach now, and like everybody should be running over to me. And then weeks later, it's like, wait, why is nobody just coming knocking on my door? And I realized I wasn't telling people. Like I was a little nervous to tell people. And I have actually a whole YouTube video on introverts and tricks that they can use to like help them become more social and what an introvert really is and whatnot. But I wasn't putting myself out there until I started running these events online, and I was associating myself with other people. And I realized, hey, if I could tap into their networks also, then that could be something. I remember I ran this one event, and which is maybe the event that you came to, where I was associating myself with a bunch of big time speakers, and people were like, I only signed up because like I love so and so, and you guys are friends, so like I assume that like you're also awesome. And I was like, I don't even know the guy, but like I just had this association, and it was just a way that people could just dip into my world a little bit. And I think for me personally, that was like the first, oh, like this is what you have to do to get people just in your circle and just the beginning of the pipeline. And not everyone's going to buy, and it's okay to help people even if like they're not going to buy something from you. But at the end of the day, it's really being able to get yourself out there and just start to tell people what you do. And I think personally, a lot of people have a hard time, especially in the beginning, what it is they really do, because they're still trying to figure it out, which we could jump into in a little bit. But getting people what to do, I think, is something really, really powerful. But in terms of,
I want to pause you for 1 second because I want to, if you don't mind, I actually just did a live coaching session on the other day on a webinar. It's very successful, and I just by my nature, I'm going to call you out if you don't mind. You'll tag me.
Go for it.
Come in. But actually, I did not come to one of your events. I downloaded one of your free something or other, and it led me to a page where it was like $19.99 or $27 or somewhere.
Okay.
Something else, and I actually downloaded it. But guess what? Never happened.
The follow up.
Out afterwards.
There you go.
This was in 2022.
Right.
Right. So my point is, now obviously it's not about you, but my point is that yes, you have to be actively involved in getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about introverts, and like I said, it's a whole parsha on that.
Right.
But you write a whole book on it. But at its core, that's how you generate leads.
Right. No, for sure. I think that's great. And I think just getting into the practical aspect. So what is somebody supposed to do? So I think you mentioned number one, networking events, really just getting out to people, even just going to the grocery store and telling people what you do. It doesn't have to be in a salesy way. It could just be, hey, what do you do? And then most people will ask, oh, what do you do back? And then you could just tell people what it is that you do. It seems social media. I know for me, LinkedIn was the first place that I jumped into, just getting out there. And then even just one-on-one speaking to people, whether it's in your community or whether it's conversations like this, just trying to see how you can support people. And it's not necessarily even to pitch that person, but then that person might know somebody who like might need your type of service. So if I know somebody who's like looking to get support in sales, I'll be like, hey, I just did this interview with Menashe, go check it out. And if you want me to reach out to him, if you want to reach out to him, just like feel free to, hey, I heard your episode with Bennett. And then all of a sudden, like you have a connection there, and it's like a win-win for everybody. So I think that's, those are like practical ways that somebody could actually reach out to somebody specifically. So I think that's great.
That's how, by the way, that's how we got onto this call right now.
Yeah.
You put something on LinkedIn. I saw it. I knew the guy. Said, wow, great stuff. He said, oh my God, hey, X, Y, and Z. And that's, I guess, how my name popped up on your radar and you reached out to me. That's how we did it. The point is that you have to be out there in your own way. But just a word of caution. You don't want to be that guy where, you're standing by a wedding and a guy starts walking over. Right away, you pick up your cell phone. I'm on the phone. I got it, right? You don't want to be that guy. But you do want people to know who you are, what you do. And, I won't get into the whole pitch thing because that word makes me, I'm not into the whole pitch thing. But you want people to know who you are. Once you know who you are, you engage in conversation, what you do, and that's where you can generate leads. And guess what? That's where you will generate leads. And that's the only place leads are going to come from. You can do we all know the people, they do these, they pay money. Somebody gives them a list of everybody who search keyword coach for the last 16 years, and they throw a list together and then they charge you $400 for it, and 95% of the people, their phone numbers are even wrong. It's a shortcut that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, you got it. You have to put in the effort. You have to do the thing.
So once you get somebody, so let's say I meet somebody at a networking event, or let's say, I message somebody on LinkedIn and we're talking back and forth in the DM. So what's the next step? Because I can't stand the next time I speak to the person, they're like, hey, we should jump on a call. And it's like, man, I thought we had something going here. And now all of a sudden, like, you're trying to pitch me on something. So at what point does it ever turn into that? Like you said, you don't like the word pitch, but like at the end of the day, like there is a reason for this relationship. So how do you translate that initial introduction into something further, even if it's going to take months?
When you watch the replay, I want you to watch how your tone changed when you said, well, he says, I'll jump on a call. Oh, great. Now he wants to pitch me something. The minute you said he wants to pitch me something, listen to the tone of your voice. And you're right, which is why I hate the word pitch. We all see the same thing. And the minute we're doing it, we're running for the hills. We're batting down the hatches. We're slamming the doors shut and closing the storm shutters. Which, right? You're right. If somebody's reaching out to you to have a conversation, to pitch you, you're right for being averse to it and allergic to it. And none of us like it. We ignore the psychology of we don't like it because when we go to do it, we know people are not going to like it. Why? Because we don't like it. But what happens if we connected, we spoke back and forth on LinkedIn. I said, hey, you sound like a great guy. I'd love to jump on a call and have a chat. And there was no pitch. There was no agenda. There was no anything about it. You'd be much more disposed to have a conversation. We had a conversation. You remember, you said, hey, call me on a phone number. We connected. We had a conversation.
Right.
What happens is, and this goes into it's a huge mountain that we could really spend weeks on. You want to be curious. You ever heard curiosity? Be curious, be curious, be curious. But you also want to generate curiosity. And if you call somebody up and you have an agenda, whether you say it or not, if you reach out to them because of an agenda, I get how many of these I get on LinkedIn a day. Oh, I'd love to hear about your business. I'm like, go back to your sales manager, tell them you need better training, and I block them. When you have an agenda, it comes through no matter what you say. You know that guy who always calls you for a favor? Hey, how you doing, Bennett? What's going on? You're like, okay, what now? It's coming. You know what's coming. When there's an agenda, you will smell it a mile away. And yes, he wants to get on the phone because he wants to pitch. When there is no agenda, it's just curiosity. I'd like to get to know you better. Believe it or not, you'll know it. It's subtle. It's subconscious. The same way, like, when somebody butt dials you or, whatever they call it, the proper languages, you'll talk to them, but it was like a mistake. Like you wanted to call somebody the other Bennett and they called you by mistake. You hear it, even if not, they say nothing wrong. And that's where it comes down to what's going on here. And I could tell you, if you have a minute, I'll tell you a long story, but it's a great story. I say it all the time. Husband comes home from work and his wife is really angry at him. I asked you to take out the garbage. I take care of the kids all day. I do everything. I know you go to work. I asked you to take out the garbage. And he's thinking in his head, wait a minute. The deadline is coming. I need a raise. My boss is in a bad mood. I hate my job. And all she cares about is the garbage. But you know what? I don't have any energy to fight. So he looks at him and says, I'm sorry. Versus he comes home. He says, deadline is coming. Boss, I hate my job. My boss is mean. I didn't get the raise I wanted, et cetera, et cetera. But the truth is, I walked right by. I could have taken it out. And he looks at him and says, I'm sorry. We all know in the first I'm sorry, it's like this fight's going to continue. 3 weeks later, she's still, expressing this. The argument still goes on. In the second case, she'll be, okay, like, fine, and move on. Now, she'll remind, 6 months later, something will happen. So remember that time, because that's the way it works. But the point is, the only difference, nothing came out of his mouth. Both times he said, I'm sorry. One time he was thinking like, oh my God, do I really have to deal with this? Fine, I'm sorry. And the other way he was saying, I'm sorry, I messed up. Because so much of communication, 85%, I don't know what the exact numbers are, is nonverbal. What's going on here comes out of your mouth here. So when I say I want to connect with Bennett because I have an agenda, I want to sell him, I want to pitch him, I want this, I want that, believe it or not, you pick up on it. So the antidote, so to speak, is be genuinely curious about people. And when it comes time to, and you figure, hey, I would like to get this to the next level, I'm more curious. I want to hear more than I could learn about on an exchange, on an impersonal exchange. Don't you think it makes sense for us to jump on a phone call like we did? And we jumped on a phone call. I learned a little bit more about you. You learned a little bit more about me. There was no agenda. So keep the agendas, because nobody cares about your agenda, and be genuinely curious and create curiosity. If you can do those two, then you actually can have conversations, because the next step is to actually have a conversation.
Right. Yeah, I think that's incredible. I always love the word curiosity, especially just in my coaching practice, just because once you get there into the curiosity world, you stop judging people for like what it is that they're doing. You yourself come in with a different light, and you're just more interested in like what the other person has to say and why they're acting the way they're acting. And I would assume even when somebody's on a sales call, to get curious on the call instead of always looking to like say the next thing, and just get curious to try to see how I can help support this person. And I think what you were saying is like the conviction that somebody has with what it is, why it is they're reaching out to somebody. I think that really sells more than anything. I've heard from like this quote unquote sales gurus that when people are like in a slump with sales, it's usually because they don't believe in the product, or they don't believe in something that they're doing. And that comes out, like you were saying, in the conversation. And if somebody can just have such conviction and such belief, and I know people who are incredible at, they might even be so good at the sales, actually. It's just they believe in it so much that you just get so excited about it. And it's just like, you just want it because it's like, oh my gosh, it's like an amazing thing just because this person believes in it so much. And I think that's something that it's like a quick tip that we can do. And I would say it's taking the agenda and really just making it a curious agenda. And like, that's the agenda. I just want to be curious about like, what does he have to do? And then that's going to come out in the conversation.
And I'll touch on something you said about believing it. You don't have to believe that the product is great. You have to believe that it can actually help them. There's a big difference. Like, I can't see why somebody wants to, I don't know, drive a Rolls Royce. I just can't understand it, let's say. But it's not going to stop me from selling a Rolls Royce, because I know he wants, and he really wants that status, so I can sell him that thing. But yeah, it really comes to, like I said, it's not just, people talk, be curious, be curious, be curious, and they come in and turn into an interrogation. And be like, really? Click. Be curious, generate curiosity, and be real. They say, I think Walter Cronkite said it, sincerity, if you can fake that, you've got it made. But the idea is, be genuinely curious about them. And that comes out of your conversation. When you're genuinely curious and they're curious about you, you can have that conversation. In that conversation, you can find out, is this a person or prospect? Are they not a prospect? Right? And that's when you know to go on with the conversation. But the best way is, yes, get the names, figure out, get a name, a contact here and there. And then the next step is to have a conversation, because that goes into qualification. You don't want to waste time with people who are not going to be good for you, et cetera, et cetera. That only comes about through conversation.
Okay, great. So just to try to put like this package around it, it's reaching out to people, whether it's like we mentioned through the networking, whether it's on social, one-on-one, whatever it might be, on LinkedIn, getting that relationship going, getting on a conversation by being curious with a person, and then qualifying the lead. Because not every single person is going to be good for you. And I think when people start out, they get so desperate and so needy for the sale that everyone's a perfect candidate and everyone's a perfect person. But the more you get into it, you realize, okay, that person, it's not going to work with that person anymore, that type of person. And it's really getting and really understanding that. And I think that's a big part of it. So I know we only have like a few minutes left, but
I'll just tell you two things. Number one, best line ever. If you sell to everybody, you sell to nobody. And number two, counterintuitive, but the best thing a salesperson can learn in any initial conversation is who is not your client. Two things. You learn that and you're gold.
That's amazing. And I think it's believing in it, like in knowing it, because so many times people get so stuck with a specific client, and that client just drains so much time and energy, whether they get the results or not to get the results, whose fault that, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And it's just knowing who it is that you're supposed to be going after, I think is a big part of it. And I think people need to sit down and think about, okay, out of the past 10, 15, 20, 100 clients I've had, who worked and who didn't work, why not, and really just auditing yourself to know who should be the ideal client for you.
I call it happy ears. I got that from a a great businessman. Many of you know Robert Herkovic, who's he calls it happy years. It's that guy who gives you the business card at the show or the network. Yeah, call me. Then you spend the next 6 months not dealing with real people, trying to call him, and you find out that he doesn't even know who you are.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, amazing. Menashe, this has been awesome. If we had to leave with a piece of advice for people who are looking to step up their leads game, where you see that so many people trip up, which I'm sure we've covered, but what's that one piece of advice that you could beat somebody up and they could do this one thing that's going to change their lead generation?
Okay. Number one, there's no silver bullet. There's no magic phrase. There's no easy way to do it. Sending out 50 million emails is not going to do it. That's not the way you're going to generate your leads. You'll generate names. You'll fill up your CRM. You'll fill up your pipeline with emptiness. There's no silver bullet. It's boring, but it's consistent and intentional work. And if you make it your intention, every person I meet knows what I do. Every person I know knows what I do. Everybody knows, and you just keep doing it. And that's where we get into the numbers game. Consistency will make it happen. Just do it over and over and over again. No shortcut. If it's a shortcut, you're barking up the wrong tree. I guarantee it. You'll figure it out soon enough.
Amazing. Menashe, thank you so much. If people want to find out more about you, I know you're on LinkedIn. Anywhere else?
Menashe Friedman. No, look me up on LinkedIn. Feel free to send me an email. But thank you very much. It was really nice, first of all, collaborating. It was nice to see you, and I hope we continue this conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to the next
Now I'm waiting for your follow-up calls.
There we go. Menashe, thank you so much.
I hope this was of value to people.
Yeah, it was value to me. So regardless, I appreciate it.
All the best. Thank you very much for having me.